she whispered. "It's hidden beneath my clothes." And I couldn't refuse to help. Encounter in the void. The abandoned mining station Nexus 9 hung like a broken tooth in the blackness of space. Captain Elias Vane maneuvered his small scout ship through the debris field surrounding it. Eyes narrowed as he watched for movement. 6 months of tracking resource signatures had led him here, to this forgotten outpost at the edge of the spiral arm. Final approach, he murmured to himself, gloved fingers dancing across the control panel. The ship's engines hummed softly as he guided it into a yawning docking bay. Emergency lights flickered weakly along the walls, casting eerie shadows across the rusted metal floor. Elias checked his oxygen levels and secured his sidearm before stepping through the airlock. The station's life support system still functioned, barely. The air was thin but breathable. His footsteps echoed as he made his way deeper into the station, following the energy readings on his scanner. The corridor opened into what had once been a processing center, machinery frozen in time. That's when he heard it, a soft whimper from behind a collapsed support beam. Weapon drawn, Elias approached cautiously. "I can hear you breathing," he called. "I'm not looking for trouble." A woman emerged from the shadows, her movements hesitant. She wore a tattered research uniform with insignia Elias didn't recognize. But what caught his attention were the faint lines that traced her skin, subtle patterns that seemed to pulse with an inner light, like veins of luminescent silver beneath her olive complexion. "Are you hurt?" he asked, lowering his weapon slightly. She studied him with eyes the color of amber. "Who sent you?" Her voice was melodic but strained with pain. "Nobody. I follow resource signatures, rare minerals, abandoned tech, salvage missions." He gestured to the station around them. "Didn't expect to find anyone alive out here." She swayed slightly, catching herself against a console. Elias noticed a dark stain spreading across her side. "You need medical attention," he said, stepping forward. She backed away. "I can't leave this place, they'll find me." "Who will?" "The hegemony. They're hunters." Her gaze darted to the viewport as though expecting to see pursuit ships materializing among the stars. Elias holstered his weapon completely. "I have a med kit on my ship. Let me help you." When she hesitated, he added, "I'm not with any faction, just a freelancer." "I'm Naira," she finally said. "Naira Sen." Elias Vane, captain of the Artemis. As he approached to support her weight, she tensed. "Wait. There's something you should know." Her eyes met his, uncertainty warring with desperation. "It's hidden beneath my clothes," she whispered. "You must be careful." "Your wound?" She shook her head. "Something far more precious and dangerous." Slowly, she pulled aside the torn fabric of her uniform, revealing not just the laceration along her ribs, but what appeared to be a crystalline object partially embedded in her skin near her heart. It pulsed with a blue-white light that intensified as Elias leaned closer. "What is that?" he breathed, transfixed by its glow. "They call it the Stellar Heart. It's an artifact from the lost civilization of Eldara." Naira winced as she covered it again. "The hegemony believes it's a weapon. They don't understand its true purpose." Elias felt the familiar tingle of warning at the base of his spine, the same sensation that had kept him alive through years of navigating the lawless regions of space. Whatever this woman carried, it meant trouble. The sensible choice would be to leave her here. Instead, he found himself saying, "My ship is this way. Can you walk?" Their eyes met, and something passed between them. A current of understanding, perhaps, or the first spark of something deeper. When her fingers brushed his as she accepted his support, Elias noticed the markings on her skin brightened momentarily. "Thank you," Naira whispered, her breath warm against his neck as he helped her toward the docking bay. Behind them, distant, warning lights began to pulse and the station's ancient alert system crackled to life. They were no longer alone. Flight through the stars. The Artemis shuddered as Elias pushed the engines beyond recommended limits. Behind them, 3 hegemony pursuit vessels cut through space, their weapon systems charging. They found us faster than I expected, Elias said, fingers flying across the control panel. The ship banked sharply, diving toward a dense asteroid field. Hold on to something. Naira gripped the co-pilot's seat, her knuckles white. The wound on her side had been sealed with a medical patch, but pain still creased her features. I'm sorry I brought this upon you. Don't apologize yet. A half-smile tugged at his mouth. We're not dead. The Artemis weaved through the floating rocks with precision that spoke of its captain's experience. Elias guided the ship deeper into the field where larger asteroids would confuse scanners. A proximity alarm blared as energy blasts streaked past the viewports. They're persistent, Nira observed, the stellar heart pulsing faster beneath her clothes, responding to her elevated heartbeat. The hegemony usually is. Elias activated, the ship's defensive countermeasures releasing a cloud of electromagnetic particles. What exactly did you do to earn their attention? Naira's amber eyes clouded with memory. I was a researcher at the Vashto Science Academy. We were studying ancient artifacts, pieces of technology left behind by civilizations that existed before recorded history. The ship rocked as a glancing blow caught their shields. Elias swore under his breath, diving the Artemis behind a massive asteroid. The stellar heart was different from anything we'd found, Naira continued. It responded to organic matter, to life itself. My supervisor wanted to weaponize it. I refused. Her voice dropped. When I tried to hide it, there was an accident. The artifact, it bonded with me. Elias glanced at her, noticing how the silvery lines beneath her skin traced patterns like constellations across her neck and what was visible of her chest above her collar. And now the hegemony wants their investment back, he guessed. They don't understand what they're dealing with. Naira placed a hand protectively over her heart. This isn't a weapon. It's a Genesis device. It has the power to restore dead worlds, to create life where none exists. The ship lurched as Elias executed a tight turn through a narrow gap between two asteroids. One of the pursuit ships miscalculated, clipping its wing and spinning out of control. 2 more on our tail, Elias reported. We need somewhere to hide, make repairs. I know a place, Naira said. An outpost in the Kairos Nebula. It's not on any official charts. Their eyes met, and Elias saw both fear and determination in her gaze. Can I trust you? He asked quietly. Naira reached across the console, her fingers brushing his. Where they touched, the luminescent patterns on her skin brightened. I don't know, she answered honestly. But right now, I'm all you have. The moment stretched between them, taut with unspoken possibilities. Then Elias nodded, entering the coordinates she provided. As the Artemis prepared for its jump to hyperspace, Nira studied Elias's profile. The strong jaw, the scar that traced his left eyebrow, the intensity in his gray eyes. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to feel something besides fear. Why are you helping me? She asked. Elias didn't look away from the controls, but something softened in his expression. Let's just say I've never been fond of bullies, especially ones with government backing. The hyperdrive engaged with a deep thrum, stars stretching into lines of light around them. As the Artemis leaped into the void between spaces, Naira's hand found Elias's again. This time, he turned his palm to meet hers, their fingers intertwining. Neither spoke of how perfectly they seemed to fit together, or the way the stellar heart pulsed in rhythm with both their heartbeats now. 3 days later, the Artemis drifted silently into a hidden dock, carved into an asteroid at the edge of the Kairos Nebula. The outpost was barely more than a collection of prefabricated structures connected by sealed tunnels, but it offered anonymity, something both fugitives desperately needed. My contact here is called Vex, Naira explained as they moved through dimly lit corridors. He trades in information, not allegiances. As long as we can pay, he won't ask questions. And can we pay? Elias asked. Naira's smile held a hint of mystery. The stellar heart has certain properties. Small fragments can be harvested without damage. They're worth more than most planetary currencies. The bar they entered was filled with beings from across the galaxy, some humanoid, others decidedly not. In a back corner sat a figure whose features seemed to shift subtly, never quite settling into any recognizable form. "Perception filter," Elias murmured. "Expensive tech." "Necessary in his line of work," Naira replied. She straightened her shoulders and approached the table. Sanctuary among ruins. The ancient city of Vashtar stretched before them, a sprawling metropolis of curved spires and crystalline domes now half buried in the rust-colored sands of a dying world. Once the crown jewel of a forgotten civilization, it now served as the perfect hiding place for two fugitives with a price on their heads. "It's beautiful," Elias said, standing at the edge of a high terrace overlooking the ruins. The twin suns of this system cast long shadows across the landscape, painting everything in hues of amber and gold. Naira joined him, her shoulder brushing against his. The casual contact sent a ripple of luminescence across her skin. Something Elias had noticed happened more frequently with each passing day. "I studied the Vashtari for years," she explained. "Their technology was based on manipulating energy at its most fundamental level. They could restructure matter, harness the power of stars." She placed a hand over the stellar heart hidden beneath her clothing. "This artifact was their greatest achievement." Elias turned to face her. In the weeks since their escape from the outpost, narrowly evading a hegemony raid, something had shifted between them. What began as reluctant cooperation had deepened into something neither was ready to name. "Will you show me?" he asked quietly. Naira hesitated, then nodded. With careful movements, she unfastened the top buttons of her shirt, revealing the artifact partially embedded in her chest. The stellar heart gleamed in the fading light, its crystalline structure pulsing with swirls of blue and white energy. The luminescent lines that traced Naira's skin radiated outward from it, like tributaries from a glowing river. Elias's breath caught, not from the otherworldly beauty of the artifact, but from the trust she showed in revealing herself this way. "Does it hurt?" he asked, his voice rough with emotion. "Not anymore." Her eyes met his. "It's become part of me now. Sometimes I can feel it responding to my thoughts, my emotions." As if in response, the heart's glow intensified, casting dancing patterns of light across both their faces. Elias lifted his hand, hesitating until Naira nodded her permission. Gently, his fingertips traced the edge where crystal met skin. A shiver ran through her and the artifact flared brighter. "It likes you," she whispered. The space between them seemed charged with electricity. Elias's hand moved from the artifact to cup her cheek, his thumb brushing across her lower lip. "And you?" he asked. "What do you feel?" Instead of answering with words, Naira leaned forward, closing the distance between them. Their lips met in a kiss that began tentatively but quickly deepened with months of unspoken longing. The stellar heart pulsed rhythmically, sending waves of soft light cascading around them like an aurora. When they finally parted, both breathless, Elias pressed his forehead to hers. "I've wanted to do that since the mining station," he admitted. Naira's laugh was soft and genuine, a sound rare enough that Elias treasured each occurrence. "Even with hegemony soldiers bearing down on us?" "Especially then." His smile faded as he tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "I've spent my life running, Naira, never staying anywhere long enough to form attachments. But with you—" "I know," she whispered, understanding the words he couldn't find. Her hands framed his face, the silvery lines on her fingers trailing light across his skin. "I feel it too." That night, in the shelter of an ancient Vashtari dwelling, their bodies entwined as naturally as their fates had. The stellar heart bathed them in gentle pulses of light that matched the rhythm of their shared passion. For the first time since the artifact had bonded with her, Naira felt its presence as a blessing rather than a burden. Afterward, lying in Elias's arms, she traced the scar that ran along his collarbone. "You never told me how you got this." "Imperial Border Patrol," he murmured, his fingers idly following the luminescent patterns across her bare back. "Before I went independent, I was transporting refugees from the outer colonies." She pressed a kiss to the scar. "Always the hero." "Hardly." His eyes met hers in the dim light, just someone who couldn't look the other way. The comfortable silence that followed was shattered by the dwelling's security system. A shrill alert echoed through the room as exterior sensors detected movement. Elias was on his feet instantly, reaching for his weapon. "Get dressed," he ordered, all warmth replaced by the efficiency of a man accustomed to danger. Naira scrambled for her clothes, heart pounding. Through the window she caught a glimpse of lights moving among the distant ruins, too organized to be scavengers, too numerous to be chance travelers. "How did they find us?" Elias growled, checking his weapon's charge. Nira's blood ran cold as realization dawned. Vex. He must have sold our location. The stellar heart pulsed rapidly against her chest, reflecting her fear, and beneath that, a deeper emotion. As she looked at Elias preparing to defend her, she knew with sudden clarity that what had begun as convenience had blossomed into love. And now, that love might cost him everything. Truth and sacrifice. Commander Draven of the Hegemony Extraction Force stood like a statue of polished obsidian in the center of the ancient chamber. His uniform, tailored to his imposing frame, bore the insignia of the Science Division, a reminder that he was no common soldier but a man who understood the value of what Naira carried. "Your efforts to escape were admirable," he said, voice carrying the artificial smoothness of vocal enhancements, but ultimately futile. Naira tested the restraints binding her to the examination table. The chamber around her had once been a Vashtari observatory, its domed ceiling designed to track the movement of stars. Now it served as an impromptu laboratory for the hegemony forces. "Where is he?" she demanded. Draven's thin lips curved into what might have been a smile. "Captain Vane is being held separately. His fate depends entirely on your cooperation." Fear coiled in Naira's stomach. After their discovery in the ruins, they had fled deeper into the city. But hegemony forces had cut off every escape route. Their last stand had come at the central plaza, where Elias had created a diversion. Drawing fire to give Naira a chance to reach their hidden ship, she had refused to leave him. That loyalty had cost them both their freedom. "The extraction process will begin shortly," Draven continued, adjusting settings on a hovering console. "Our scientists have determined that the artifact has bonded with your cardiovascular system. Removal will be challenging." "You mean fatal?" Naira translated. Draven shrugged. "A regrettable necessity. The stellar heart's potential as a weapon far outweighs the value of a single life." "It's not a weapon," Naira insisted, the familiar argument feeling hollow now. "It's a tool of creation, of renewal. Anything that can create can also destroy." Draven activated a scanner that hummed as it passed over her body. "The ability to manipulate matter at the subatomic level has applications beyond your limited imagination." The stellar heart pulsed against her chest, its rhythm uneven as if sensing the danger. Nira closed her eyes, focusing on its energy the way she had learned during quiet moments with Elias. The artifact responded to emotion, particularly to love. In their most intimate moments she had discovered she could direct its power in small ways. Now she needed more than a small manifestation. Focusing her thoughts on Elias, his gray eyes, his rare smile, the feeling of safety in his arms, she felt the heart's energy stirring within her. The luminescent lines across her skin brightened, drawing a curious look from Draven. "Fascinating," he murmured. "The symbiosis appears to be deeper than our initial scans indicated." A tremor shook the chamber, dust falling from the ancient ceiling. Draven frowned, touching his communication implant. "Report." Whatever response he received caused his artificial composure to crack. "How many breaches?" "That's not possible." Another tremor, stronger this time, knocked equipment from tables. Warning lights flashed across the commander's console. "Secure the artifact," he barked to his assistants. "Prepare for immediate extraction." As a technician approached with a surgical device, the observatory's massive doors exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris stepped Elias, his face bloodied but his aim steady as he fired at the nearest guards. "Get away from her," he growled. Chaos erupted as hegemony soldiers returned fire. Elias dove behind a column, the ancient stone crumbling under energy blasts. He was outnumbered and outgunned, but the diversion allowed Naira to focus her concentration on the restraints binding her wrists. The stellar heart blazed with light as she channeled its energy. The molecular bonds of the metal restraints began to weaken, atoms separating until the cuffs simply fell away. Draven noticed too late. "Stop her." Naira rolled from the table as energy blasts scorched the spot where she had been. The heart pounded in rhythm with her racing pulse, power building within her like a gathering storm. She had never attempted to channel this much energy before, had been afraid of what it might do to her, to others. Now, with Elias pinned down and hegemony forces closing in, fear gave way to resolve. "Elias," she called. When their eyes met across the chamber, she felt the heart's power surge. "Cover your eyes." Understanding flashed across his face. He ducked behind the column, shielding his vision. Neera stood in the center of the room, arms outstretched. The luminescent patterns on her skin glowed with blinding intensity. As she released the heart's energy in a concussive wave, light erupted from her body, rippling outward with such force that hegemony soldiers were thrown against the walls. Equipment shattered. Ancient stone cracked. Draven was flung backward, his cybernetic enhancements shorting out on impact. In the aftermath, silence fell except for the settling of dust and debris. Naira swayed on her feet, suddenly drained. The patterns on her skin dimmed, some fading entirely. Elias rushed to her side, catching her before she collapsed. "What did you do?" "Use the heart's true power," she whispered, her voice weak. "Creation requires energy. So does destruction." He gathered her in his arms, heading for the exit. "We need to get to the ship." "No." She clutched his shirt. "The temple. Take me to the Vashtari temple." "Neera, we don't have time. It's the only place I can finish this." Her eyes met his, pleading. "Trust me." Despite everything in him screaming to flee this planet, Elias nodded. The temple. As he carried her from the ruined observatory, neither noticed the faint movement among the debris where Commander Draven lay, his cybernetic systems slowly rebooting. The ancient temple rose from the heart of Vashtar like a spire of hope, its crystalline structure catching the light of the setting suns. By the time Elias reached its entrance, Neera had regained enough strength to stand, though she leaned heavily against him. Inside, the temple opened into a vast chamber dominated by a central dais. Patterns etched into the floor mirrored those that traced Naira's skin. Constellations. Star maps, the cosmic dance of creation. "This is where it began," she said, voice filled with wonder despite their dire situation. "Where the Vashtari created the heart. What are we doing here, Naira?" Elias asked, checking the charge on his weapon. "Hegemony reinforcements will be here soon." She turned to face him, taking his hands in hers. The luminescent lines on her skin were fainter now, some completely dark. "When I released that energy back there, I felt something change. The heart is destabilizing." Fear gripped Elias. "What does that mean for you?" "It means I'm dying," she said simply. The bond was never meant to be maintained in a single host for this long. The Vashtari shared the burden among many. Elias shook his head, denial rising like bile in his throat. "There has to be a way." "There is." Neera guided him to the center of the dais. "The heart can be stabilized here in the place of its creation, but it requires a choice." Her amber eyes held his, filled with emotions too complex to name. "I can relinquish it entirely, let it return to dormancy for centuries until someone else discovers it. Or, Elias prompted when she hesitated. "Or we can share it." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Bond it between us, creating a permanent link." Understanding dawned on his face. "Like the Vashtari did," Neera nodded. "It would mean committing to each other completely. Our life forces would be intertwined through the heart. We would never be able to be far from one another." "And if one of us dies?" Elias asked, already knowing the answer. "Then both do," she confirmed. "It's too much to ask." He silenced her with a kiss, gentle but sure. When he pulled back, his gray eyes held no doubt. "It's not too much," he said. "Not for you." Tears welled in Naira's eyes, the stellar heart pulsing with renewed vigor. She guided his hand to her chest, placing it over the artifact. "Then let it be done." The heart unveiled, the Vashtari temple hummed with ancient power as Neera positioned Elias on the central dais. Concentric circles carved into the floor began to glow faintly, responding to the presence of the stellar heart. The Vashtari believed in balance, and she explained, her voice growing stronger as the temple's energy field intensified around them. No single being was meant to bear the heart's burden alone. Elias stood opposite her, their hands joined across the central altar. "What do we do?" "Open yourself to it," Naira said. "Let your mind quiet. Feel the connection between us, not just physical, but deeper. The luminescent patterns on her skin brightened as she closed her eyes in concentration. Slowly, impossibly, tendrils of light began to reach out from her body toward Elias. Where they touched his skin, similar patterns began to form, faint at first, then growing more distinct. The stellar heart pulsed visibly now through the fabric of Nira's clothing, its crystalline structure glowing with blinding intensity. A sensation of warmth spread through Elias's chest, followed by a strange pressure, not painful but profound, as though something were making space for itself within him. "I can feel it," he whispered in awe. Nira's eyes opened, meeting his across the altar. "Accept it. Welcome it." Energy surged between them, the heart's light becoming so bright that the entire chamber was illuminated. The sensation in Elias's chest intensified until he gasped, feeling as though his very atoms were being rearranged. Then, with a final pulse that shook the temple to its foundations, the light receded. Elias looked down at his chest to see a portion of the stellar heart now embedded there, its crystalline structure identical to what remained in Nira. Luminescent patterns similar to hers traced across his skin, pulsing in perfect synchronization with hers. "It's done," Nira breathed, her expression one of wonder and relief. The strain that had marked her features for weeks had vanished. "The burden is shared." Elias touched the artifact in his chest, feeling not intrusion but completion. "I can sense everything, the temple, the planet." His eyes widened. I can feel you." A smile of pure joy transformed Nira's face. "And you." Their reunion was interrupted by slow, deliberate applause. They turned to find Commander Draven standing in the temple entrance, his cybernetic systems glitching but functional. A squad of hegemony soldiers flanked him, weapons aimed at the pair. "How touching," Draven said, his artificial voice distorted. "And most convenient. Now we have 2 specimens to study." Elias moved protectively in front of Nira, though through their new bond he felt her calm resolve rather than fear. "It's over, Draven," she called. "The heart has transformed. It can never be weaponized now." The commander's eyes narrowed. "We shall see." He gestured to his soldiers. "Take them both. Alive, if possible." As the soldiers advanced, Elias and Nira exchanged a glance. No words were needed. Their shared consciousness allowed a plan to form between them instantaneously. Together they placed their palms on the ancient altar. The stellar heart, now divided between them, pulsed with renewed purpose. Energy began to flow not outward in destruction, but downward into the planet itself. The temple trembled. Beneath their feet, dormant systems awakened as the heart's energy spread through networks buried for millennia. Around them, the dead world of Vashtar stirred. Draven staggered as the floor shifted. "What are you doing?" he demanded. "What the heart was meant to do," Nira answered. "Restore life." Outside the temple, across the barren landscape, impossible transformations began. Sand and dust transmuted into fertile soil. Dormant seeds buried for centuries awakened, pushing green shoots toward the sky. Ancient aqueducts filled with fresh water that hadn't flowed for 1,000 years. Inside, the hegemony soldiers retreated in confusion and fear as the temple itself seemed to come alive, crystal surfaces gleaming with internal light. Commander Draven alone held his ground, his face contorted with rage. "You think this display will save you?" he snarled, drawing his sidearm. "The hegemony will never stop hunting what you possess." "Then they'll be hunting for a very long time," Elias replied. In perfect synchronization, he and Nira channeled the heart's power through the temple's amplification systems. A pulse of energy radiated outward, not destructive but transformative, overloading and permanently disabling the weapons and communication systems of the hegemony forces. Draven fired his weapon, but the blast dissipated harmlessly against the energy field surrounding Elias and Nira. With a howl of frustration, the commander turned and fled with his disarmed soldiers. In the silence that followed, Elias and Nira stepped out of the temple to witness the miracle unfolding around them. The once dead landscape of Vashtar was transforming before their eyes. Grass spreading like green fire across the plains, ancient trees unfurling dormant leaves, the first hesitant animals emerging from long hibernation. "It's beautiful," Elias murmured, his fingers intertwined with Nira's. Through their bond, he felt her happiness like sunlight. "This is only the beginning," she said. "There are other worlds like this one. Planets the hegemony abandoned after stripping them of resources. With the heart, we could restore them all. Elias turned to her, the luminescent patterns on their skin pulsing in harmony. You're suggesting we become wandering planetary healers? Her smile held both mischief and promise. Unless you had other plans for retirement, Captain? He laughed, pulling her close. I can't think of a better use for a small smuggling vessel and 2 fugitives bound by an ancient artifact. Speaking of bound, Naira's expression grew serious as she placed a hand over the heart in his chest. Are you certain about this? We'll never be able to truly be apart again. In answer, Elias kissed her, a promise sealed with more than words. Through their connection, he let her feel the depth of his certainty, his love, his commitment to the path they would walk together. When they parted, both their hearts pulsed with matching light. I've spent my life running, Elias said softly. Now I've found something, someone, worth staying for. Above them, the twin suns of Vashtar began to set, casting the reborn world in hues of gold and amber. The Artemis waited in its hidden berth, ready for whatever adventures lay ahead. The hegemony would regroup, would likely hunt them again, but for now there was only this moment, this perfect union of 2 hearts beating as one. Naira rested her head against Elias's chest, listening to the dual rhythm of his heartbeat and the stellar heart's pulse. Where shall we go first? Elias smiled, his gaze turning upward to the emerging stars. Everywhere, he whispered. We'll go everywhere. Around them, the world continued its miraculous transformation, a testament to what could be accomplished when 2 hearts shared a single purpose. Not destruction but creation, not conquest but renewal, not solitude but love. As night fell fully on the reborn world of Vashtar, 2 figures walked hand in hand toward their waiting ship, their path illuminated by the gentle light emanating from within them both. The shared glow of the stellar heart, no longer hidden, but unveiled in all its transformative glory.